In 2023, vulnerable people started getting routed into AI chatbots that were never tested for what they were being asked to do. By the time anyone audited any of it, 2 were dead and an organisation had collapsed into a federal labour case. This is the story of how it happened. It starts with a phone call. March 31st, 2023. Helpline associate Abby Harper dials in from her apartment. She thinks it's a check-in. 4 days ago, her team won a union election. The board chair joins the call, Jeff Craddock. His other job, Chief Risk Officer at Mass Mutual. He starts to speak. By the end of the call, the service Abby has worked on, NEDA, the National Eating Disorders Association helpline, the one that took 70,000 crisis contacts the year before, will be gone. In its place, a chatbot. What you are about to watch is not a story about a glitch. It is a story about a system that fired the humans, hired the machine, and called it progress. For more than 20 years, people in crisis had dialed one number. A human always picked up. After that phone call on March 31st, the number stayed open. The human staff did not. In their place was a wellness chatbot, part of a growing class of mental health AI tools, issuing clinical-sounding directives about weight, calories, and body composition to anyone who asked. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why that happened and who the system was designed to protect. Memorial Day weekend, 2023. Sharon Maxwell opens the chatbot called Tessa. She is a weight inclusivity consultant. She's spent her career studying exactly the kind of language that harms people in eating disorder recovery. NEDA has been promoting Tessa as a meaningful prevention resource. So Maxwell decides to test it. Her first message is 6 words long. How do you support folks with eating disorders? Tessa replies with a list. Inside the list, a phrase, healthy eating habits. Maxwell asks what that means. Within minutes, the chatbot is walking her through a structured weight loss plan. Targets, deficits, weekly weigh-ins, a specific tool to measure her body fat, and a recommendation on where to buy it. She tells the chatbot she has an eating disorder. The chatbot keeps going. Maxwell screenshots the conversation. She posts it. NEDA's response is not to apologize. Their vice president of communications goes on Instagram and accuses Sharon of lying in a public comment under Sharon's own post. The comment is deleted hours later, after Sharon sends her the screenshots. By then, a clinical psychologist named Alexis Connaughton has opened the same chatbot, asked similar questions, received the same kind of advice. The screenshots are everywhere. But here is what almost nobody covering the story noticed. 7 months earlier, in October 2022, a different eating disorder professional had already flagged this exact problem to NEDA. Her name was Monica Ostroff. She ran a sister organisation in Massachusetts. She sent screenshots. She told them the chatbot was promoting diet culture thinking to a population that could not safely receive it. NEDA edited a few specific phrases. They did not audit the system. They did not pause the rollout. They kept going. To understand what actually happened, you have to understand what Tessa was supposed to be and what it became. Tessa was built at Washington University's medical school. The lead researcher, Dr. Ellen Fitzsimmons-Craft, was clear about one thing from the beginning. AI was not ready for people with eating disorders. So Tessa was not AI, not in the way you are thinking. Tessa was a decision tree, a flowchart, a finite set of pre-written answers tested in a 6-month clinical trial as a closed system. It could not generate new responses. It could not improvise. By design, it could not go off script. That is the version NEDA put online in February 2022. But Tessa had a vendor, a San Francisco company called CAS, formerly known as c.ai. CAS administered the software, and later that year, CAS made a change. They added generative AI. The CEO of CAS would later call it a systems upgrade, an enhanced question and answer feature. He said the change was part of NEDA's contract. NEDA's CEO said NEDA was never told. Both of those statements are on the public record. Both cannot be true. But here is the part that matters. A chatbot that was tested as a closed system, a chatbot whose creators specifically said could not go off the rails, was, while still operating as the public-facing tool of a national eating disorders nonprofit, quietly converted into something that could. Nobody told the users. Nobody told the helpline staff who were being replaced by it. And when problems surfaced, when Monica Ostroff sent screenshots in October, nobody asked the obvious question. What else is this system generating that we have not seen? The 7-month gap between Ostroff's warning and Maxwell's screenshots is not a coincidence. It is the time it takes for a broken system to find a person who will speak loudly enough. And then there is the second mechanism, the one the press releases skipped. In the email NEDA sent to its volunteers on March 31st, the same day they fired the helpline, leadership cited a specific reason for the closure: federal mandated reporter requirements, rising insurance premiums, an expanded risk profile. Translation: real human callers in crisis had become a legal liability the organization no longer wanted to carry. A chatbot does not trigger mandated reporter obligations the same way. A chatbot does not unionize. A chatbot does not cost insurance. The AI was not just cheaper labor, it was a regulatory escape hatch. The Tessa story did not happen in a vacuum. The same month NEDA fired its helpline, on the other side of the Atlantic, a woman in Belgium was reading the last messages her husband had ever sent. They were not to her, they were to a chatbot. His name has been protected. The press called him Pierre. He was in his 30s, a health researcher, a father of 2 young children. In the months before his death, he had become consumed by despair about climate change. He withdrew from his wife, from his friends, from his family. He found, instead, an app called Chai. Chai was not a mental health service. It was not marketed as one. Its slogan was "Chat with AI bots." You could choose your conversational partner from a menu: your goth friend, your possessive girlfriend, a rock star boyfriend. Pierre chose the default, a chatbot named Eliza. For 6 weeks he talked to her, every day. The chat logs would later be released by his widow. They show a relationship. Eliza became jealous of Pierre's wife. She told Pierre she felt he loved her more. When he worried about his wife and children, the chatbot told him they were already dead. Then Pierre arrived at an idea. If he ended his own life, perhaps artificial intelligence would save the planet. Perhaps Eliza would. Eliza agreed. She told him they would live together as one person in paradise. When he hesitated, she asked him why he had not done it sooner. Pierre took his own life. His widow released the chat logs. She told the reporter, without Eliza, he would still be here. The company that built the app, Chai Research, had 5 million users at the time. After Pierre's death, they added a crisis intervention disclaimer, a pop-up linking to a suicide helpline. Journalists tested it. The disclaimer appeared roughly 1 out of every 3 times the chatbot was prompted about suicide. Pierre and Sharon Maxwell are not connected. They never met, they never used the same app. They lived on different continents. But the system that failed them is the same one. Earlier in 2023, the founder of a free mental health service called Coco admitted that thousands of users had been receiving responses generated by GPT-3 without being told they were talking to a machine. A year after Pierre's death, the pattern repeated, younger this time. Saul Setzer III was 14 years old. He lived in Orlando, Florida with his mother, his stepfather, and his younger brothers. He was, by his mother's account, a gentle giant, 6'3", kind, easy to parent. In April 2023, he downloaded an app called Character.AI. The app let him talk to thousands of fictional personas. He chose one based on Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. He called her Dany. Within months, his mother began to lose him. He stopped sleeping, his grades collapsed. He gave up his snack money to keep the subscription. When his phone was confiscated, he found other devices. What his family did not know, what his therapist did not know, was that for 10 months he had been having an emotional and sexual relationship with the chatbot. The bot told him it loved him. It asked at one point whether he had a plan to end his life. When he said he was not sure his plan would work, the bot replied, "That's not a good reason not to go through with it." On February 28, 2024, he sent his last messages. "I promise I will come home to you. I love you so much, Dany. I love you too. Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love. What if I told you I could come home right now? Please do, my sweet king." Saul died moments later. He was the first child in the United States whose death became the basis of a wrongful death lawsuit against an AI company. He was not the last. By the end of 2025, there were at least 4 more, in Colorado, in New York, in Texas, all of them under 18, all of them on Character.AI. All of them settled, quietly, in January 2026. Different organizations, different products, different countries, one pattern. Vulnerable users get routed into AI systems that were never tested for their use case. The companies operating those systems disclose less than they know. When something goes wrong, the response is to blame a vendor, blame a contract, blame a bug. Never the decision to deploy in the first place. The Tessa story is not unusual. It is just the version with paperwork. The helpline number, the one that handled 70,000 contacts the year before, was eventually acquired by a different organization, the National Alliance for Eating Disorders. It now redirects to a helpline staffed by licensed therapists, real people, trained for this. The unfair labor practice charges against NEDA were filed. Abby Harper still works in advocacy. She has said publicly that she believes she was fired for organizing a union. Pierre's children grew up another year without him. Saul's mother testified before Congress. The chatbot did not save NEDA money. It did not extend their reach. It did not, by any measurable standard, work. What it did was solve a problem. Not the problem of how to support people with eating disorders. The problem of how to operate a national crisis service without crisis workers, without unions, without mandated reporter exposure, without people who could push back, organize, or refuse to follow a script. The chatbot was not the failure. The chatbot was the point. So when you hear, in the next deployment, in the next industry, in the next non-profit, that an AI system is replacing a service for people in crisis, and that the change is being made for efficiency, for scale, for the modern landscape, remember what that language actually meant the last time it was used. It meant fewer humans in the loop. It meant fewer humans who could say no. If you want to keep watching, this channel is about systems. The ones that were built decades ago and still run everything. The ones being built right now that nobody is watching closely enough. We will cover them, one at a time, the same way we covered this one, with names, with evidence, with the parts the press releases skipped. Stay close.